coming up on Network Africa. Tanzania's Vice President Emmanuel Nchimbi resigns after reports of a falling out with President Samia Hassan. WHO urges 6-month Ebola truce in the Democratic Republic of Congo as African Union advocates for the continent's health sovereignty. Plus, another group of Nigerians are repatriated from South Africa amid private attacks. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Amarachi Ubane. We begin in Guinea-Bissau, which is set to vote in a new constitution this Sunday. A vote is expected to significantly expand the powers of the presidency and reshape the country's political system ahead of elections planned for December. The referendum comes less than a year after military officers seized power in a coup, just one day before electoral authorities were due to announce the results of a presidential election. Under the proposed constitution, the president would gain the power to appoint and dismiss the prime minister and cabinet, create or abolish ministries, and chair the council of ministers. He could also dissolve parliament in the event of a grave political crisis and dismiss the government in certain circumstances. The reform would also reduce parliament from 102 seats to 65 and cut the number of electoral constituencies from 29 to 12. As supporters say, the changes could reshape the country's political institutions. Critics, however, warn they could concentrate too much power in the presidency. Tanzania's Vice President Emmanuel Nchimbi says he's resigned from office weeks after a reported falling out with the country's President Samia Hassan. Nchimbi shared his brief resignation letter on social media, saying he wants to respect the president's wishes. He says he would retire from public life at the end of next week, less than 10 months after being sworn in. His resignation makes him the first vice president to step down in the history of the East African nation. Nchimbi has made some controversial remarks in recent weeks, which may point to the possible fallout with President Samia. Last month, he had urged Tanzanians to fight for a new constitution, arguing there was an opportunity to secure one before 2030. He also linked a new constitution to ways of addressing injustice, strengthening human rights, good governance, and democracy. The 54-year-old was President Hassan's running mate in last October's disputed presidential election, which saw hundreds of people killed in post-poll unrest. The pair was sworn in last November after winning 98% of the vote. Health matters now. The World Health Organization is calling for a humanitarian truce of at least 6 months in the Ebola-affected areas of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Regional Director for Africa, Mohamed Janabi, made the call on Tuesday during the second day of the 76th session of the WHO Regional Committee for Africa holding in Addis Ababa. Mr. Janabi says peace is one of the most powerful medicines that can be provided because when health workers are able to reach people, transmission stops. Ethiopian President Haile Selassie was among senior officials that gathered at the Adwa Victory Hall, warning that Africa is at a pivotal moment as health financing becomes more unpredictable. Africa Union Commission Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf also called for greater African self-reliance in health, saying health sovereignty on the continent is no longer an option.
Very much. Budibunyo Ebola outbreak continues to expand, with more than 5,290 deaths to date and approaching 6,000 confirmed cases. It is already the second largest Ebola outbreak in history, surpassed only by the West African epidemic of 2014-2016, which lasted for 2 years and claimed 12,000 lives. Behind every statistics is a family. Behind every number is a community forever changed. Our experience shows that Ebola can be controlled.
Health sovereignty on our continent is no longer optional. We need to explore all possible means to reach self-reliance, from financing to local production and research and innovation. This year, African Union theme is articulated around water and sanitation, and we all know the critical importance of clean and abundant water for the health of our communities. Your Excellencies, African health sovereignty starts with effective national health systems.
The decisions we make here today must extend far beyond technical discussions. They must directly advance Agenda 2063, a continental vision that aspires to build an Africa which is healthier, more resilient, and united.
In the meantime, the United Nations Children's Fund has delivered 70,100 doses of Ebola vaccines to the DRC following a decision by the International Coordinating Group on Vaccine Provision to allocate the doses from the International Emergency Vaccine Stockpile. The ICG allocation is for use in a clinical trial and for healthcare and frontline workers. UNICEF also delivered the 1.0 ml syringes needed to administer the vaccines from its global supply and logistics hub in Copenhagen. As the procurement partner of the ICG, UNICEF is responsible for establishment and the day-to-day management of emergency vaccine stockpiles, as well as for the rapid delivery of doses allocated by the ICG. As part of efforts to support the recovery of Sudan's educational system, the Education Cannot Wait Group has announced a new 3-year investment that will reach nearly 200,000 crisis-affected children and adolescents, helping them return to safe and inclusive learning. The announcement comes as ECW launches Hope Starts Here, a global campaign to mobilize $600 million to reach 10 million children living through the world's most severe crisis. ECW, the Global Fund for Education in Crisis, has announced a new $22 million multi-year investment to help restore safe, quality, and inclusive education for nearly 200,000 crisis-affected children and adolescents across West Africa, and also across Darfur, South Kordofan, and Gedaref, as Sudan continues to face the world's largest humanitarian and displacement crisis. This announcement follows a high-level mission to Sudan where ECW Director Maiser Jalbout met with children, teachers, communities, and education partners affected by more than 3 years of armed conflict and displacement. Now, a fresh group of Nigerians are being repatriated from South Africa following heightened tensions over illegal migration and recent anti-immigration protests. Their departures come amid growing concerns about the treatment of foreign nationals and the impact of these protests on relations between South Africa and other African countries. Returnees are expected to arrive in Lagos this evening. Our reporter, Innocent Amosa, was at the OR Tambo International Airport speaking to those preparing to return to Nigeria.
For many of those departing, this is not simply a journey home. It follows a period of uncertainty and heightened tensions around the presence of foreign nationals in South Africa. Some say the recent anti-illegal migration protests were a factor in their decision to return to Nigeria at this time.
Yeah, I'm feeling very good. I'm feeling happy. I am very, very happy that I'm going home.
I'm gonna miss my friends. You know, even if I'm here, I make a good friends. I will take their memories with me. I will still be contacting them. You know, we have phones, we have WhatsApp. So South Africa is a nice place, but there's a time for everything. So it's time for me to go back to my country.
The Nigerian Consul General in Johannesburg says discussions are taking place with South African government to ensure this does not further strain relations between the two countries.
The meetings, government to government, the last one was held in Abuja when the South African Minister of Foreign Affairs or Minister of DIRCO went. And the much I know, both governments are doing their best to protect the relationship. But our government has some demands. We need our people protected. We need the people who are propagating all this hate and infusing terror in fellow Black Africans. We need them arrested. We need them stopped. It needs to end. We can't have new deadlines being released like we're hearing now. But for more details on government-to-government discussions, either the High Commission can tell you, otherwise I know our spokesperson of our Ministry of Foreign Affairs is making sure that the necessary information goes out.
Yes, the Nigerian consulate, especially the consul general, has been very active since this xenophobia started in April. In conjunction with the Nigerian High Commission, they process the passengers that are going home. And of course, your Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DARCO, will also send in their team and the Home Affairs and the police to process and clear the passengers before they leave.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the region is working to strengthen its institutions to better address migration. As more Nigerians make their journey home, the concern is emerging about how the South African government is going to deal with its migration crisis. But the people I spoke to here, they are calling on private sector, civil society groups in Nigeria to lend a hand in making sure that this repatriation crisis becomes a success. From Ora Tambo International Airport, Innocent Simposa, Channels Television News.
Staying with immigration issues, South Africa and Zimbabwe have agreed on a new framework that will allow foreign nationals to be transferred home to finish their prison sentences. The deal between the countries is meant to ease South Africa's overcrowded prisons, currently at 58% over capacity, with more than 170,000 inmates for 107,000 beds, while giving inmates a better chance at rehabilitation closer to their families. South Africa's Correctional Services Minister, Peter Gronwald, met with his Zimbabwean counterpart, Minister of Justice Ziyambi, and signed the landmark memorandum.
In that memorandum of understanding, there are various issues. How we can learn from each other, where we can have visits to each other, but also important is that we will also can be able to have interstate transfer of offenders, meaning that South Africans in the prisons of Zimbabwe coming back and the other way around. And the most important of that is, it is enhancing the rehabilitation process of offenders. Because we have made some research in South Africa and found that more than 80% of foreigners prefer to go back to their countries of origin, because then they're closer to their families. And as the minister has also said, that they can receive more visits often from their relatives. So I think that is a positive step forward to show to the people, even the victims, and we also say there must be justice.
The four men accused of involvement in the killing of former 2 Division World Boxing champion Zolani Tete have appeared at the Matsane Magistrates Court in South Africa, just days after he was shot outside his Eastern Cape home. The suspects aged from 22 to 28. One of them is accused of being the middleman to recruit 2 alleged hitmen. Alleged mastermind of the incident, 22-year-old Uzozile Gokwana, was brought into court in a wheelchair. He faces murder and attempted murder charges. Tete's father, Zolile, has welcomed the speed of arrests, which he said had brought some relief to the family, with preparations underway for the 38-year-old's burial. The funeral service for the late former world boxing champion is scheduled to take place on Saturday, August 29. Tete was killed on Friday evening as he arrived at his home in Matsane following a training session in anticipation of his comeback following a doping ban.
This thing started way back 2019 when myself and the late champion we were in Lafayette, United States of America. This is all this thing started, and it faded a bit down 2020 because of COVID. Then 2 years again, it surfaced. So it's been brewing. Police are aware about it, and everybody else is aware. Tanzania has lived a good life for the country for the past 38 years. He has been a professional since 2006. He has been a 3-time world champion. Currently he's holding the Guinness Book of Records of knocking someone in a world title fight in Northern Ireland, Belfast, within 6 seconds, and it was officially 11 seconds. We want to move away from that as the family. Let's celebrate his life. Let's celebrate his achievements, what he has done to the society, more than glorifying criminals.
Nigeria's High Commissioner designate to Kenya with concurrent accreditation to Somalia, Ambassador Danlami Ibrahim has presented his letters of credence to the President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, at the Villa Somalia in Mogadishu. During the ceremony, the Nigerian principal envoy conveyed the best wishes of President Bola Tinubu to President Mohamud and reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to strengthening bilateral ties with Somalia. The presentation formally marks the beginning of Ambassador Ibrahim's diplomatic assignment as he takes on the responsibility of strengthening bilateral relations between Nigeria and Somalia. The engagement is expected to further deepen cooperation between the two countries across areas of mutual interest, including trade, investment, security, and people-to-people relations. Still ahead of the program. The solar-powered irrigation system is helping to keep crops growing through dry periods in rural Zimbabwe. I'll tell you all about it. Stay with us. Welcome back. A United Nations mission in South Sudan patrol traveling for 3 days from Juba to Sokari say they have been able to assess the security situation in the towns and hear directly from displaced families about their most urgent needs. When fighting erupted near the Uganda-South Sudan border, families fled their homes with little more than the clothes they were wearing. Many left behind their farms, belongings, and in some cases became separated from their children. For families in Sokari, their needs go beyond food and shelter. For many children, displacement has also meant an abrupt end to their education. UNMISS says for families who fled with almost nothing, the immediate priorities are safety, food, healthcare, and a chance for their children to return to school.
As we live, a lot of the things there, the clothes are not there, children are not having clothes, and also many children are losing education. Because by then some of the other children, they were there in the school, but currently here others are loitering. As you can see, they are playing around the compound because there is no school for them.
The humanitarian situation is dire. You find people run from there without food. You know, when you're just chased abroad, find guns flying everywhere, along artillery, falling very far away. People could run like mad people. And so most of them ran to the IDP site for safety without any food item, without any clothing, without any bed sheet, without any saucepan.
The World Food Programme is working with local communities in several African countries to rehabilitate their land and make agriculture possible again after years of conflict and severe drought. Across the Sahel, communities are confronting extreme heat, declining rainfall, and increasingly degraded land that make farming and production more difficult. However, across 5 countries, Chad, Sudan, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mauritania, the WFP is helping farmers cultivate restored areas, while the teams are developing techniques such as spring wells that capture and channel scarce water to productive land. The work aims to help communities restore degraded landscapes while strengthening their ability to produce food in one of the world's harshest environments.
I think the Sahel is a very harsh environment. It's difficult because almost 80% of the lands are dry and there is very, very little rainfall, which makes it very difficult for people to produce. And then with the climate change, it's kind of getting very harder for people. It's very hot. Productive capability has been decreased. What is unique in the Sahel is that people are still very resilient. And what we discover is that the hardship doesn't bring hopeless. So we help the community. We develop a very unique expertise to develop spring wells. So technically, it means we find one unique solution to fix 3 problems. So the spring wells is a technology that helps the water to be somehow canalized, and then we distribute it in the area that we want to spray.
So the Sahel is a very complex area and a very large area. And some people know of the Sahel is because of its conflict or because of its migration. But what we're celebrating in the Sahel is the restoration of land over 5 countries, restoring 50% of their vegetative cover and affecting 4.2 million people.
Agriculture is a key pillar of Zimbabwe's economy, providing livelihoods for more than 80% of the rural population and contributing roughly 17% to the country's GDP. Now, in the eastern region of the country, farmers are using solar-powered irrigation to keep crops growing through dry periods, turning a community garden into a source of food and income as drought and unreliable rainfall continue to threaten smallholder agriculture.
In an effort to boost food production and strengthen livelihoods, the Mutakwatakwa Community Garden in Zimbabwe is providing a local example of how solar-powered irrigation can support food production, household incomes, and resilience. Farmers at the Mutakwatakwa Community Garden in Tutiyo village keep production costs low by using organic manure from cattle and goats instead of chemical fertilizers, while drawing water from a solar-powered irrigation system. One of the farmers, Beauty Mano says income from the garden has helped her pay her children's school fees, improve their diet, and invest in livestock.
The change that has been brought by this garden is that some are now able to send their children to school, while others are now able to feed their families. We are now able to provide our families with a 4-star diet that we were taught by our sponsors. We now have healthy children, and even the rate of kwashiorkor has reduced.
For another, the project has provided women with an additional source of income.
This has made most women self-dependent and less reliant on their husbands for everything, including relish.
Established in 2023 by the local community with supports from US aid through the Takundak program, a 5-year food security and resilience initiative led by CARE in Zimbabwe's Manicaland and Masvingo provinces, the garden has helped improve food security, boost household incomes, and build resilience to dry spells in Zimbabwe.
Ethiopia is officially in the race to host the Africa Cup of Nations in 2028, potentially bringing the continent's biggest football tournament back to the country for the first time in more than 50 years. The Ethiopian Football Federation has formally submitted its bid to CAF, with the country last hosting AFCON in 1976. Ethiopia is Africa's second most populous nation, home to around 130 million people, and its capital, Addis Ababa, is the headquarters of the African Union. But the bid faces serious challenges. Ongoing insurgencies in Amhara and Oromia, along with fears of renewed conflict in Tigray, raise major security concerns. On the football side, Ethiopia ranks 143rd in the world and last appeared at AFCON in 2022. Exited the group stage, still the federation says the country is fully ready to host Africa's biggest football event. And here's our fun fact before you go. Did you know Tanzania is home to a rare gemstone called the Tanzanite? The stunning blue-violet crystal is found at the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro. It was discovered in 1976, believed to be about 1,000 times rarer than diamonds. Its color changes depending on the light, ranging from deep blue to rich violet, making it one of the most mesmerizing gemstones in the world. And now you know. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.